I do not believe, I simply do not believe that the same old politics is going to generate the excitement to create that turnout. You can't generate excitement when you're busy going to New York raising large sums of money from millionaires and billionaires. People want change. And I think that what our campaign is about is the ability to speak to working people, many of them having become disillusioned with status quo politics. People are working longer hours for low wages, are tired of the political establishment, and want a government that stands up for them and not just the 1%. We can talk to those people.
Bernie Sanders campaigning in Iowa over the weekend, with the Iowa caucuses now just 1 week away. In the CBS News YouGov poll out of Iowa, Sanders is statistically tied for first, with Joe Biden 26% and 25%. Pete Buttigieg is in third with 22%. Senator Elizabeth Warren follows in fourth with 15%, and Senator Amy Klobuchar rounds out the top five with 7%. And in the New York Times Siena College poll, Sanders is up 6 points from October to take a lead with 25%. Buttigieg sits in second with 18% and is statistically tied with Biden and Warren, who have 17% and 15% respectively. Klobuchar is in fifth with 8%. Interesting numbers. Joining us now, national political correspondent for NBC News and MSNBC and author of The Red and the Blue, Steve Kornacki, and former chief of staff to the DCCC and a former director of strategic communications for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign, Adrienne Elrod. She's an MSNBC contributor.
So, Steve Kornacki, we are finally at the moment, as the Patriots said at Bunker Hill, where we can see the whites of their eyes. So when we see these polls, Iowa is upon us. Nobody can no longer tut them away and say, oh, these polls don't matter. It matters. We're within 10 days. And here you have Bernie Sanders certainly surging in the New York Times poll. Joe Biden, a bit of a surge of his own in the other poll. So take these two polls and all the others that you're looking at right now and give us a state of the race 1 week out.
Yeah, it's funny. For the last couple of months, we've been here trying to talk about Iowa and saying, gee, there aren't that many polls. Now, suddenly, there's maybe too many polls out there. But what does it look like for Sanders? Obviously, it looks like Sanders has had a very good couple of weeks here, a very good couple of months, really, since he had that heart attack back in October. Biden, a bit of a wild card here because the numbers vary so much from poll to poll with him. One of the big differences when you look inside the numbers on these polls, it really has to do with age. You can look at the youngest group of voters starting at 18 years old, and Sanders is generally blowing away the competition. And his support just slowly but steadily drops the older you get. And by the time you get to 65 plus, Sanders is nowhere near the lead. And it's sort of the opposite for Joe Biden. The younger you get, when you start at 18 years old, it's Biden who's getting blown out. And the older you get, and especially when you get to 65 years plus, that's where Biden's sort of sweet spot is. So it's sort of complete mirror image opposites of each other there, Biden and Sanders, in terms of their support. One of the questions here with the Iowa caucuses, I know it is such a cliche in politics to say turnout, it's all about the turnout. It's all about, who shows up to vote. But the caucuses being so different than a primary, having to go out, commit to a couple of hours at a public meeting, publicly declaring your preference, this sort of thing, you do tend to see turnout be lower in caucuses than in primaries. A different, more specific type of voter typically turning out in the caucuses. An expectation that caucus number will be higher this year than it's ever been before, but still probably different than the caucus states. I think there's a question there of whether that gives Sanders potentially a leg up. And again, just you look at the Iowa polls. There was also a couple new ones out of New Hampshire, one, in fact, that had Sanders up double digits there. And I've been talking about this for months. The possibility for him or for anyone of putting together what has been a very powerful combination in Democratic primary politics through the years, the 1-2 punch of win Iowa, roll it into New Hampshire, and come out of those states 2-0. 4 candidates have done that in the past, basically the past half century. All 4 of them have gone on to win the nomination.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.